Morning Year 7, this is our second now food cook along, and today we're going to be making cheese scones. Now at home, you were given a choice whether you want to make cheese or sweet scones. I'm going to be making cheese, I need to say scones, instead of sweet. So I will tell you throughout the method, if you are making sweet ones at home, what you need to do differently, okay? So don't worry about that for now. Also, if, like last lesson, you don't want to make it as we are going through it, that's absolutely fine. You can feel free to watch this video at a later date, and then therefore you can take it at your own speed, okay? So again, there's no worry if you can't do it right now. All I would say is try to send me the pictures after you've done them so that I know you've taken part in it, and let's see your amazing creations within food studies, okay? So I'm going to talk you through the equipment and the ingredients just like last lesson, just so you can see if we're using anything similar or if we're not, and also what the correct terminology is, okay? So the ingredients that we're using first are self-raising flour, and the self-raising flour, we've added a bit extra of baking powder in there as well. We've got some fat, we've got some strong cheese, okay, so a cheddar is ideal for this. We have some flavouring and we have some milk. Now when I say flavouring, we have got mixed herbs, we have got mustard powder, and we have got some pepper, okay? So I'll talk to you about flavouring later on. I've also got a flour dredger. Now a flour dredger is a little piece of equipment that you store your flour in. Not many people have these. You might just have a little bowl with flour in instead, but it just evenly distributes flour onto your worktop so that nothing sticks onto it, okay, which I'll show you how you use that later on. And then your rest of the equipment, we've got mixing bowl, a sieve, a teaspoon, so a little spoon, a tablespoon, so a large spoon, a butter knife, a pastry brush, and a pastry cutter, okay? And then we've also got baking tray and a bit of greaseproof paper so nothing sticks onto it. If you have not got any greaseproof paper at home, you could just smear a bit of oil or butter, or if you've got non-stick trays at home, you won't need anything at all, but it's always useful just to use, just in case something does stick, okay? So, let's make a start. Now, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to make breadcrumbs, okay? And the breadcrumbs are going to be made from our flour and our fat, which is butter or margarine, okay? So the first thing we need to do is sieve our dry ingredients into here. So remember from last lesson, we are sieving to aerate, okay? So I don't want to hear you saying that we're trapping air, I want you to hear that word aeration. We are aerating the product, okay? And aerating is spelled A-E-R-A-T-I-N-G, so aerating the product. So we're getting loads of air into our flour, okay? And that's what we need to do. So carry on until it's all gone. Once you get to the very bottom, okay, you might need to push it through with your fingers to sort of spoon, and that's absolutely fine, okay? Done. And then we add our fat. So our fat goes straight in. Now I think it's about 25 grams of fat in this bowl, but all the ingredients will be on the screen, or they will also be in the instruction of the actual lesson, okay? And with our fingertips, not our palm of our hands, our fingertips, we are going to rub the fat into the flour. Now it's very important that we do not use the palm of our hands, because the palm of our hands are the warmest part. And if we then just decide to kind of squeeze the butter with our palm of our hands, the butter will just start to melt, and therefore it will not create breadcrumbs, it will create a paste, okay? Now you'll notice we've only got a small amount of fat, so that risk is quite low, but it's still important to develop the skill of rubbing in, because we are rubbing the fat into the flour, okay? So remember, just your fingertips and your thumb. And you're just going to break the butter up a little bit into little smaller chunks first, so it's more manageable. And then you are going to just squeeze the butter and the flour together, as I said, between your fingertips and your thumb. Now I was always taught, okay, to try and bring the flour up a little bit in the bowl, so you can see my hands are being rising up, okay? And that again is trapping more air. But always try and make sure your hands are constantly moving, because you do not want any of the flour to not be rubbed in with the fat. And you will notice the flour will change colour. It will go to a kind of creamy colour. It won't go bright yellow, but it will go a creamy colour. So where our flour is very, very white, because it's bleached, you will then turn it into a kind of a very beige colour, okay? So you're also then going to be able to develop the visual check. So you're going to be able to look with your eyes and see, well, my flour has changed colour, so I know I'm rubbing it in correctly. So just remember, only your fingers and your thumb, not your palms, and lift your hands up, get as much air in as possible. And as I said, it's all about visual check. It's not about you doing it for 5 minutes and it should be done. It's not about timing it. It's about a visual check. Using your eyes, developing your independence to know whether you have rubbed this fat in properly, okay? Now, I can see here, I've got quite a beige colouring of my flour, so it's gone from bleach white to a beige colouring, but I've got no big large lumps of butter. Now I know that because I'm touching it, but there's a little tip that I'm going to teach you. And what you can do is, if you just kind of flat your hands where haven't got any excess flour on them, pick up your bowl, shake it from side to side, and if you've got any large pieces of butter, they will rise at the top, okay? And then if you can see them, then you can just rub them in, and then you know that those large pieces of butter have gone. So you can see already that I've got a nice batch of breadcrumbs here, because they're nice and beige. All of the fat has been rubbed in because I can't feel it with my fingertips, but also give your bowl a little shake. Any large lumps rise, just rub them in nice and quickly. Okay? So that is your breadcrumbs. Then we're going to add our flavourings, okay? We're going to add our cheese in. Like I said, I've used a strong cheddar, a mature cheddar for this. You could use, if you wanted to, a bit of Parmesan. Even some grated mozzarella would be nice in there, or even a red Leicester. The red Leicester might be really cool because then you'll have a stronger colour in the end result, okay? So I'm just going to put my flavouring in, so I'm using a mature cheddar, a strong cheddar, but as I said, you could use maybe Parmesan, you could use a red Leicester, because for the colour that would be quite bright, it'd be quite nice to have that in there as well. Or if you don't like, if you're not the biggest fan of cheeses, again, you can go to a sweet option. So if you were doing a sweet option, you would add in here the 25 grams of caster sugar and 25 grams of either some mixed fruits, so sultanas, raisins, currants, or even some diced up cherries, okay? No fresh fruit, we're going to use dried fruit in this batch of scones. So if you are making your sweet version at home, you know, after you've made your breadcrumbs, which is the same as everybody else, I'm adding my cheese in, but you are then going to add your sugar and your fruit. Again, fruit is optional. If you don't want to add fruit, you don't have to. You can just have sweet scones, so just with the sugar in there instead. But if you're going to follow if you're going to make the cheese on, this is how you're going to do it, okay? So we've added our cheese. Now, I want other flavouring in here as well. Now, the other flavourings that I'm looking at is mixed herbs, mustard powder, and some pepper. Now, I'm definitely going to add some pepper in, okay? And I'm just going to add probably like a pinch of pepper, and just sprinkle that over. So not much at all, really. But I'm going to go with mustard today, okay? I wouldn't use both of them because they are both quite strong flavours. So I'm going to use mustard because mustard and cheese goes well, okay? It's a good kind of link in terms of flavour. So I'm just going to add a teaspoon, a small spoon of mustard powder and sprinkle that in the top as well. Okay? Now, as I said before in our first lesson and throughout, try and tidy up as you go along. If you've got a tidy desk, you're going to have a nice tidy mind, so you'll be nice and organised, okay? So I'm just going to get my dishcloth. There we go. I'm just going to wipe my desk up a little bit. Again, I don't want any of your parents saying that, well, you can cook, but you can't clean, okay? In our kitchens in school, you can do both, okay? So make sure you're doing both at home. Okay, so nice and organised now. And then with my butter knife, I'm going to mix around the flavouring with the breadcrumbs. So I'm going to mix in the cheese, my mustard powder, and my pepper, okay? So again, if you were doing the sweet version, you would have your sugar and your fruit in here, and you would then be mixing it through with a knife, just as I'm doing, okay? So there's not much different at all, apart from the flavouring stage, if you are going to do the sweet option, okay? Mix that in perfectly. Next is now we need to bind these ingredients together. So if you remember, we used the word binding last week as well, and we're going to bind it into a dough, because right now it's still a bunch of breadcrumbs really with a bit of flavour and cheese in. So to do that, we're going to use milk. Now you could use milk and egg, you could even use water, but the milk will add a bit of flavour, but it will also add some of that nutritional content. So if you all know, maybe what nutrient does milk provide? It provides calcium, so it's good for our bones, okay? So it's about remembering that, yes, you could use water if you didn't have any milk in, but adding milk will also develop the nutritional content of our dish, okay? So use your tablespoon, and I want you to add 2 tablespoons of milk in at a time. So 1, 2, okay? Now it's really important that we add the liquid gradually, and that technique is called rate of flow, okay? So if you add all the milk in at once, you could just end up with a bowl of paste, okay, like a liquidy paste, and that's not good, because then you're going to have to add flour to dry it up, and then the quantity of the ingredient are going to be wrong. And with baking, which is what scones are, it's a baking product, the ratio and the weighing out of the ingredient has to be incredibly accurate, okay? So accuracy is key when you are doing any form of baking. I'm sure you've all watched Bake Off at home on TV, and if the people haven't weighed or measured things and you just try and have a guess, it normally ends up wrong, and we don't want that to happen to you, for you guys, okay? So 2 tablespoons of milk, get your butter knife and mix that milk through, okay? Now once that milk has been absorbed by the flour, you can notice I haven't got a dough yet, okay? It's still quite loose, so I'm going to add another 2 tablespoons of milk. So I'm gradually adding the liquid. Now to get a bit scientific, we don't know the absorption level of the flour grains in this bowl. If you went to university to study food science, you would learn how to be able to measure the absorbency of a flour grain, but we don't know that, okay? So some of these flour grains may be really greedy and may absorb loads of liquid, and some of them might not. So that's why we have to do it really gradually, so therefore we get a nice dry dough. We don't want a wet, kind of sticky dough, okay? So with your knife again, stir the milk in. Now I'm not sure if you agree, but I'm starting to get a bit of a dough mixture. I can start to bring it together. So just to be on the safe side, I'm going to decrease the amount of liquid I add now. I'm going to add 1 tablespoon, okay? So 1 tablespoon of milk, and then with my knife, stir that through. And let the knife do all the work, and as you'll see now, it's starting to come together. So if I just clean my knife there, get my fingers and just start to press it together, you can see that it's starting to form a nice dough. Okay, so you can see I've just formed that dough with my fingertips. I haven't put any pressure onto it at all. And I've got a nice clean bowl, so there's nothing left in that bowl now, okay? I've just got a nice dough. So then, with your flour dredger, now like I said, this is just to help us have an even distribution of flour on our worktop. Now we're quite lucky, we've got metal worktops, so they don't normally allow things to stick to them. But at home, if you've got maybe other type of material worktops, you might find that they stick easily. And especially with the heat right now, they will tend to stick more easily as well. So it's always a good side just to get a bit of flour, extra flour, and just sprinkle it on your worktop, okay? So a little bit on your worktop, and then put your dough on top of it, okay? Then roll it in your dough, in your flour, sorry, and you want to knead it. Now when I say knead, we're not kneading like we do with bread, we're going to be very gentle with this dough. We're just going to knead it together to make it a nice smooth dough, okay? Now some people might say, oh, you need a rolling pin now, but we do not use a rolling pin, okay? I don't want to see any of my students use a rolling pin when you're making scones, alright? So, what you do is, you pat it out so it's nice and flat, and you want to use a measurement such as your thumb as the thickness of your scones, okay? So I would always say, look at the height of your, say, your nail, your thumbnail, and then go up to your knuckle, and that's the thickness of your scone that you want, okay? Now, the key thing with scones is to making sure that they are all of a consistent size, okay? But it's around 1.5 to 2 centimeters in thickness. So I'm just going to press it out with my hand. I'm not using a rolling pin, just with your hands. Okay? So I'm being nice and gentle with it. Bit more flatter, and then it'll be the exact same thickness that I want. And then with your pastry cutter, cut it out. Now, again, another key tip. When you press down with the pastry cutter, you do not twist it. If you twist it, there's a risk that your scones will bend as they are baked in the oven. So you just press it straight down, and then pull it back out. And then go to another area of the dough, do the same. Back out. And then what you're going to end up with is 2 scones that you're then able to place onto your baking tray. And you are going to repeat that process. You're going to roll it up again. Okay? You shouldn't need any more flour on your worktop, because I know I don't. So pat it out into a nice dough. Make it nice and thick, like I said, about the depth of your knuckle on your thumb. And then we just push down. And then we repeat that again. So we should be able to get around 5 to 6 of these scones, because to me a scone should be thick, it shouldn't be thin. You are not making a biscuit, okay? You're making a scone. That's a bit too thick still. There we go. Now that noise you might have been able to hear then when I pressed down was the air trying to escape. So that shows you and me that I've got loads of air in here by sieving, by rubbing in, okay? By if you were adding an egg in, you could beat your egg as well. So you're adding loads of air into the actual dough, which is exactly what you want, okay? Get the right thickness and then push that down. And I probably haven't got enough to make a full scone with this little bit of dough here, so I'm just going to roll it into a ball and I'll bake that as well, and that can be like a little treat for you as the baker who's making the dish, okay? There we go. So with your pastry brush and your bit of extra milk, you're going to glaze top of your scones. Now I don't glaze the side because you want to see a difference in colour. The glaze, I hope you all know what that's for. If you do know what it's for, I'm going to give you 5 seconds to shout to the camera, why do we glaze the top of the scones? 2, 3, 4, 5. Well done to you that you know it's to glaze it to make it shiny, okay? So it's to develop the appearance and the look of your scone. It'll make it a nice golden brown and it'll make it a nice shiny colour, a nice glossy colour, okay? But the reason we don't want to glaze the sides of the scone is because we want to see that clear dark top and the pale sides, okay? So we want a difference in colour, okay? So again, I'm just going to glaze the tops of them. And you don't want to drown them, you just want a little smearing of milk. And if you wanted to, you could sprinkle maybe a bit of cheese on top, if you wanted to, again, to cook it with it in the oven, and therefore it'll melt onto it and it'll have more flavour. But for the size of these scones and the quantities that you've used in terms of the cheese and the flavourings, you'll have a really nice balanced flavoured scone, and that's the same even if you've done the sweet version as well. These will go into a preheated oven, 200 degrees, okay, for about 12 to 16 minutes, depending on your oven or where you place them in the oven. But I would advise that you place them on the middle shelf using oven gloves. And then again, you are only looking for the colour check, so you're doing a visual check again to see if these are cooked. You will notice that they have risen, so therefore visual check, have they risen? Yes, you can move on. Are they a golden brown? Yes, you can move on, okay?